Live from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios.
The man your man could smell.
Theo Dorsey is theoretically speaking.
But are you a different animal and the same beast?
What does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
Streaming live on YouTube. Here's Theo Dorsey.
Man, oh man, what a beautiful day it is this Monday. Not only is it Jackie Robinson Day, got to shout that out, of course. We got the WNBA draft tonight. It's the Monday after the Masters. We've got a champion that's kind of sparking a lot of different emotions out of people. Some people indifferent. I like the guy, Scottie Scheffler. And also, kudos to the NBA on a well-produced finale to the NBA regular season. We have the play-in stage set. The playoff seedings are out there and underway. And I'm here to tell you, again, my good people, it's Theo Dorsey. I'm your friend. I want to be a beacon of good light, but also somebody that recorrects you to the right path. And I got to be honest with y'all. With the play-in stage set and the Miami Heat sitting at the 8th seed, going to travel to Philadelphia. The stage is set, Wells Fargo Arena, Wednesday night at Philadelphia. Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey versus Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, and whoever the hell else shows up, Bam Adebayo for the Miami Heat on Wednesday night for the 7th seed. The stage is officially set. And I'm here to tell everyone, because there's been a lot of pontificating, there's been a lot of predictions being made. It is a fool's errand to ever assume anything with the Miami Heat when it comes to postseason basketball. Their time has come. Right, this is like the beautiful thing about this for the Miami Heat basketball team. You wrap up the regular season, 2 wins against the Toronto Raptors. I mean, throw that in the trash. It didn't work out anyways. They were trying to fight their way into the playoffs, but they're stuck in the play-in because, well, when you loaf throughout the regular season and also have the kind of complications like injuries that riddled this team all year long, you're going to have a regular season that amounts to something that's somewhat of a disappointment. So I get why people are a bit down on the Miami Heat. What I don't get is less than 365 days removed from what the Miami Heat did last year as an 8th seed in an unprecedented run all the way to the finals, through the play-in, the same situation they find themselves in today. And we have people making declarative statements, and we have folks on these radio airwaves, on Unsportsmanlike this morning. I hear Evan Cohen, Michelle Smallman, Chris Canty talking about the New York Knicks, who are the 7th seed, and having predicting what would happen in a Knicks-Sixers matchup in the first round. I can't believe Evan Cohen, first and foremost, a guy who parades himself as a person that's a purveyor of Heat culture and that stands by it. I can't believe this guy got away with doing that. And don't you worry, I will make sure I address Evan Cohen on Wednesday in his typical slot when Evan Cohen pulls up on us on Theoretically Speaking. I've got a bone to pick with the man, though I do love him. Something's wrong with you for letting people talk that way. But the assumption that the Miami Heat, who have been a disappointment throughout the regular season, we're used to that as well, are not going to get through the Philadelphia 76ers on Wednesday. The assumption that the Sixers are moving right on through and should be focusing on the Knicks is a fool's errand. And, well, one of the people that kind of made that assumption, Tim Legler on, I believe, Get Up, talking about the most dangerous team in the East outside of the Celtics being the Joel Embiid-led Sixers.
Who do we like in those series?
Well, look, you don't want to play Philadelphia. That'd be my call. The way that they looked when Embiid came back, and assuming he's fully healthy going into the postseason, you do not want to see the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, Jimmy Butler's got a playoff track record.
Obviously.
But Philly would be the team because Joel Embiid is so unique in what you have to do to prepare for him. Do you have the personnel? Do you have the scheme? He's one of the best mid-range jump shooters in the entire league. Miami, they've got the track record of flipping that switch. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think the Knicks would be okay in that series. Philadelphia is the team that you don't want to have to play.
See, it is so funny to me. And I get that the Sixers are under new leadership. Nick Nurse is not Doc Rivers. I get that the Sixers have a new electrifying point guard in Tyrese Maxey. He's not James Harden. But it is so funny to me that the same squad in the Miami Heat that have played in the Eastern Conference Finals 3 of the last 4 years, the same team that played their way through the play-in as an 8 seed, had their backs against the wall in the second game of the play-in last year before then going on to upset the Milwaukee Bucks as an 8 seed in the first round, upset the New York Knicks in the second round as well, and then finish it off with the roller coaster of emotions that was the Eastern Conference Finals. After the Heat went up 3-0 and then dropped 3 straight, I think I was on the brink of insanity. I was losing my mind. I'll still remember it. I was in a hotel room in Houston trying to celebrate my birthday. It was the day before my birthday, the day in between Game 6 and Game 7. I was literally losing my mind before the Heat regained focus and ran the Celtics out of the gym. That same Miami Heat team, sans a couple guys, plus guys like Jaime Jaquez Jr., with the injection of guys like Nico, who's a good shooter and a spacer, that Miami Heat team is once again being doubted. And I'll tell you right now, as a person who admitted just last week, I have a toxic relationship with this Miami Heat basketball team. No matter how many reasons they give me to not believe, and no matter how many reasons they give me to put my full faith in them, it is such a wishy-washy, toxic relationship with my belief in their ability to go out there and win. And then I see things like today, where one day after the regular season closes, on the precipice of the play-in tournament, everybody's acting like the Sixers are going to walk right over the Heat on Wednesday night at home and go into a playoff series with the Knicks, leaving the Heat to figure out what they're going to do with the Bulls or the Hawks afterwards and maybe play in the 8-versus-1 against the Celtics. It is a fool's errand to ever predict what's going to be happening with these Miami Heat. And if nothing can tell you that, how about you just look at the story of this Miami Heat season? Number one, they were top 5 in the league this year with games lost due to injury, right? Top 5 in games lost due to injury. And the other teams in that top 5 in the NBA, none of them made the postseason. This is still an Eric Spoelstra-led squad. The guy who is known as the genius on that sideline, the best coach in the NBA, and a guy who LeBron James credits for rewriting the ship during the Big Three era, post that Dallas Mavericks finals that looked terrible, him going off and learning the spread offense through Chip Kelly, bringing that into basketball and helping elevate that Heat squad to a team that could not be stopped those next 2 years. The same Eric Spoelstra that has found a way to squeeze every bit of juice out of what the Miami Heat players have right now. The reason why you have guys like Duncan Robinson performing at such a high level, even though I hope his back is okay, I hope he's able to get back into these playoffs and actually play some games, is because of that guy you have on the sideline. But the biggest reason why you can't assume anything with this Heat squad comes in the form of Mr. Deuce Deuce, Jimmy Butler himself. Jimmy Butler actually just had an interview with Slam, the magazine. He had a sit down with them ahead of the playoffs. And though I would say it would be better to feel like Jimmy Butler was more focused on the game on the court, and Jimmy Butler, a guy who a couple weeks ago we saw at the Miami Tennis Open, kicking it, instead of playing games, he was out sick, but also watching some tennis, which, I guess you can excuse. A guy who we know loafs on the regular season and goes from, passive Jimmy into playoff Jimmy once April hits. We haven't seen any of that, and we were hoping to see some of that in that must-win game against the Mavericks at Kaseya Center last week, which we got none of it. But Jimmy Butler, who evolves into this new form of playoff Jimmy when the postseason comes around, here he is in his interview on Slam Magazine talking about the specific reason why you can never count out this Miami Heat team, and it's because they are a different animal, but the same beast when postseason turns around.
It's a time where people really got to think about going up against Miami Heat and myself. I know what I'm capable of. I know what my squad is capable of. And don't nobody want to see us in a 7-game series anyways. We know that.
This is the weirdest season I've seen in a while from the Miami Heat. It starts off with Jimmy Butler being emo Jimmy at Heat Media Day, right? Going out there with the weird haircut and the piercings all over his face. And it was real. I was there in person. It was super real. It was shocking to see. And, of course, those pictures kind of made their runs. And then you have him showing up in music videos. You see Jimmy Butler riding horses in the streets of Miami with the common folk. This is a season where you get rid of a guy like Kyle Lowry. You bring in a guy like Terry Rozier. You have Tyler Hero missing months at a time with injury. You have also, beyond all of that, you got Sexy Red pulling up courtside at Kaseya Center. Who knows? Bam Adebayo started shooting threes for once. We've been calling for that to happen for the past 5 years. This has been a very atypical Heat basketball season, and I feel like it's going to be followed by, yet again, a prolific run. I'm not saying they're making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals again. I'm not even saying they even could possibly, I mean, there's a chance I could be professing my faith in this squad and they let me down by not even making it into the playoffs. I mean, we've seen them come up short. But more often than not, in recent history, we've seen this team elevate its game to another level. And if you want just pure facts, listen to this stat right here. Last year, at this same time, going into the play-in, the Heat were 9th in defense and 25th in offense. 9th in defense, 25th in offense. This year going into the play-in, they're 5th in defense, 21st in offense, and on top of all of that, they are maybe the most doubted I've seen this Miami Heat team be since they lost that initial play-in game last year. Jimmy Butler and the fellas are going to come in there with an edge in Philadelphia, a place where Jimmy is very familiar, and against a guy like Joel Embiid, who Jimmy is friends with. But, once he steps on that court, all guards go down. The gloves are going to come off. The Heat are going to leave it on the court Wednesday night in Philadelphia. The line is like 4.5 points. Everybody's acting like it's a sure thing that the Sixers are going to take out the Heat. And I'm here to remind you, it is a fool's errand to ever assume anything with these Miami Heat. They can go into Philly and get blown out by 20 points. And then, honestly, I think that might be one of the more entertaining things is if the Heat actually do lose to the Sixers and then get the 8th seed by beating either the Bulls or the Hawks in the play-in, and then they can do maybe the funniest thing ever. And in the Eastern Conference right now that the Boston Celtics sit atop at the 1st seed looking like a powerhouse, looking like this is just a roadmap to them making it to the finals. If there's one team that strikes fear into the very heart of not just Celtics fans, but the very Celtics players themselves, it's them dudes with Heat culture strapped on their chest, C-Cat. Like that right there would be a hilarious storyline. And I know you're not really a Heat fan when it comes to basketball, but you're familiar with how this Heat-Celtics rivalry has gone over the postseason, right?
Absolutely, dude. You took the words out of my mouth when you said Heat culture strapped across their chest. If that scenario were to play out, the one you laid out, losing their first game against the Sixers, battling their way all the way back, and then putting on a run in the playoffs, even though they lost their first play-in tournament game, that would be as Heat culture as it gets. Is that fair to say? That flushing it clean after a disappointing first showing and then just dominating from there on out? I'd sign up for that.
And that's the thing. Like, this team is so unpredictable. The fact that we could even lay that out as a possibility and it not even be far-fetched kind of lays into and also just further proves how, again, it is weird to me. It is extremely strange that folks are talking about Wednesday as if this is some kind of formality. Sixers versus Heat, play-in game for the 7th seed. This is some kind of formality for a team like the Sixers who, yes, like the Miami Heat have no answer for Tyrese Maxey. They really got no answer for Joel Embiid either. As great as a defender as Bam Adebayo is, Joel Embiid is one of the most unstoppable players if he's anywhere near 100%. So yes, as a Heat fan, you have to have a little bit of nerves, a little bit of appropriate fear, as Greg Popovich would say. But also, as a person who's been following the Miami Heat over the past few years, I think it is ridiculous the amount of confidence, the amount of assertion people are putting on what's going to happen Wednesday night. And I want to be the one to go out there on the airwaves and say it. The Miami Heat ain't rolling over for them Sixers. It ain't happening. It's not happening on Jimmy's watch. It's not happening on Spo's watch. It's not happening on Bam's watch. It ain't happening on Pat Riley's watch. And damn it ain't happening on my watch. So, again, and this is typical for the Heat to look a little lethargic this time of the year. Usually you see a little bit more of a ramp up, but maybe they're filling it out and maybe they know their process better than we do at this point. This time last year, during the regular season this year, C-Cat, Jimmy Butler has shot the ball 20-plus times just 3 times. Last year in the opening round against the Milwaukee Bucks, he did that 3 times just alone in that series, including a 56-point outing and a 42-point outing in what was one of the most prolific performances we've seen in the playoffs from anybody in a Heat jersey, that including LeBron James. This Heat team ain't down and out. This Heat team looks like a sleeping dog right now, but the more and more y'all doubt them, and I want it to keep happening. It's Monday right now. The game's not until Wednesday. I want the doubt to keep pouring in because the more and more you guys doubt the Miami Heat, the more confident I become. Just last week when I saw what happened at Kaseya Center against those Dallas Mavericks, I was worried. I was sick. I was scared. I told you about my toxic relationship. I opened up. I was vulnerable. But if there's one thing I'm sure of today, it's the more that people doubt that squad out there on Biscayne Boulevard, the more confident not only they become and I become. And again, let's go back. I want to hear that Jimmy Butler sound one more time from Slam Magazine, because for Jimmy Butler, he does this all the time, right? He always speaks in affirmations. He's that kind of guy. He's positive. He's optimistic. He has belief in his brothers. He has belief in himself. But I don't think he's just talking out of the side of his mouth. And if he is, at age 34, and that Miami Heat locker room has gotten more than its share of his confirmations and his affirmations and his positive speak. If he is speaking like that and he goes out there and he looks like passive Jimmy and not playoff Jimmy, I mean, it might be some time for a change down there in South Florida, out there in Miami. But here he is again, Miami Butler's superstar, Jimmy Butler, talking about, I said Miami Butler's, the Miami Heat superstar, Jimmy Butler, talking specifically about his confidence going into this matchup with the Sixers.
It's a time where people really got to think about going up against Miami Heat and myself. Like, I know what I'm capable of. I know what my squad is capable of. And don't nobody want to see us in a 7-game series.
They don't.
Anyways.
They don't.
We know that.
They don't. They absolutely don't. But what I don't want to see is when the Heat do push through the play-in and make it into the playoffs, what I don't want to see, C-Cat, is Jimmy Butler finding another event to take time away from the court and go and visit. But I do want our fans to be able to do so. So let me tell you a little bit about Formula One. F1 coming to Miami. Tickets are actually now available for the 2024 Formula One Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix happening May 3rd through May 5th. It's a 3-day event, and as you know, it's filled with art. It's filled with music, world-class cuisine, and of course you get 3 days of top-notch racing, including this season's first sprint race in the Americas. You won't want to miss it. Choose from a variety of grandstands, each with fantastic track views that put you right into the action. And also, of course, you get access to the full campus. Join us at the 2024 Formula One Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix, May 3rd through 5th. Tickets available starting at $775. Find your ticket, F1MiamiGP.com. The Miami Heat ain't rolling over for the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm not going to roll over for whatever draft talk our guy Mike Tannenbaum has for us. He's next on Theoretically Speaking. We're bringing in former boss of the Dolphins and former GM of the Jets, Mike Tannenbaum. We're talking NFL draft. I got to ask him something about what Tom Brady's been sneaking up on. Tom Brady's been hinting at another return, and I know Mike T's big football brain has some opinions on that. So Mike T, when we come back here, we're Theoretically Speaking on ESPN 106.3.